All right, so I ended up buying some more of HOOY and CONY today. I want to show you where I bought it at, and I also want to go and take a look at the underlyings of each of those to see if we can find any kind of resistances or support lines to look forward to for HOOY and CONY, as we'll be looking at those underlyings of HOOD and Coinbase. Hello, my friends, this is Legend. So today I did buy a few more shares of HOOY and CONY. And we're looking at my stock tracker sheet right here. And if I scroll down right here, you can see that I'm currently down on HOOY and I'm currently down on ULTY. And if we scroll right on over, you can see that HOOY is red as well. So I am down on that one, but the rest of them I am up on. SMCY keeps flipping back and forth. As you can see, my real price per share on SMCY is $8.13, but the market price being $8.17 means that I am green at the moment for SMCY. Now, we did get our announcements for the YMAX ETFs for Group 1 and Group 2. So I'll be able to update my ETFs and add in those distributions, and I'll do that this weekend to see where that puts me as far as my real price per share. And I'll also enter in those purchases for CONY and HOOY. And until I do that, we could just punch it right here on my calculator and find out what that purchase is going to change my real price per share to. So the first one, we'll just punch in CONY right here. So I do the drop down, I select CONY. My buy price is the price I did purchase on this new purchase that I did make today. And I bought those shares for $35 each. And how many did I buy? I got 20 more shares. And as you can see right over here, this is calculating that percentage drop that I would prefer to get. Okay, and right now I've got it at about a 0.3%. And in order to basically get about a 0.3% drop, I can go up to about 30 shares. And at that point, then that percentage drop between those intervals actually decreases from 0.3 down to, say, 0.25 and so forth. Because if I do change this to, say, a 0.2, you'll notice that the number of shares that would fit within that 0.2% drop will increase. So at a 0.2%, I can get up to about 60 shares, and that should provide with about a 0.2% drop for those intervals. Now, there's a lot to that, but it's just to give an idea and an estimate of about how many shares that you can get so that you can get the most bang for your buck. But if I keep it at that 0.3, it says I can get up to 30 shares. And between each of those intervals, it is about a 0.3 drop. And that interval, of course, being 5 shares for each interval that it's doing the calculations for. But back to my calculator right here. So I've got CONY. I bought those shares at $35 each, and I purchased 20 shares. So at 20 shares at $35 each, and my real price per share was $44.28, that's going to change it, and it's going to recalculate that into this calculator right here, and it's going to tell me what that new real price per share will be, and that's going to change it to $43.22 from $44.28. So I'm getting about a $1 drop on that, right? So not too shabby. And that's about a 2.4% decrease in that real price per share. Now, it will cost me about $700, but I am still lowering that real price per share because CONY is still down. And we're going to take a look at the chart, and we're going to take a look at Coinbase, which is the underlying of CONY. And we're going to find out if there's any kind of resistance or support lines that can help us understand where CONY may be headed. Now for ULTY, I did not buy any more shares of ULTY simply because it's just really close to that actual market price, as my real price per share is $37.51 and that market price is $37.15. And we also earned that distribution for ULTY, and that will also come out of that real price per share. So I am just holding off on what I have on ULTY at the moment. But the one I did make a purchase on was HOOY. You can see on HOOY, I've got a real price per share of $46.59. So let's punch that into the calculator up here, and let's find out what that new real price per share would be after that purchase of HOOY, not counting the distributions that we did get the announcement for on today. So I can just change this right on over to select HOOY, and my buy price on HOOY was $42.99. And how many shares? Well, I bought 15 more shares of HOOY. Now this is going to recalculate that real price per share. And as you can see, it was $46.59, and it is now going to be $46.12. So it dropped it down about 1% on that price. I'll take it. With the current price of HOOY at $42.61, I am bringing it down, but I do need HOOY and CONY to level off, trade sideways, or start trading up. And speaking of them trading sideways or possibly starting to move up, let's go over to the stock chart and let's take a look at the underlying, as that is what's going to push our high yield ETFs. All right, so first we're looking at HOOY, and this is the YMAX ETF on HOOD. Okay, so as you can see, we have been somewhat trading a little down to sideways. It does have a little bit of a base here, but this again, this is the ETF HOOY, and to really understand where it could be going, we have to look at HOOD, because whatever HOOD is doing, it will push HOOY to do that same thing for the most part. So let's go over and check out HOOD. And we are looking at HOOD right now, and I do have a couple lines on here. Okay, so this line right here, that was a previous resistance line right here, and it was a support line as it was bouncing around through here. Now it did eventually break through that, right? And we did come on down, but notice that we are coming up on another support line right here. And this support line is around that $102. And you can see right here is the candle, and this is the current candle. And it is coming down close to that $102 right there. That's being the support line that I did draw. But what do you notice also? And I can zoom back a little bit. You can see this red line right here. Well, that is the MA200. And if I look at that 1 year chart right there, it is staying above that MA200 for pretty much the entire year here. It did test it right here, and then it went on up. We are now coming back down and possibly testing it again. And if we zoom back in, you can see really close here that we are sitting right there on that MA200. So we are testing this MA200, as that MA200 is setting at about 103.43. And what did we close at? 103.40. I mean, is that a coincidence? I don't think so. That's a pretty strong indicator, the MA200. So hopefully we can just hit that, bounce off of it, and we can start moving up. And of course, if HOOD is going to bounce off of this MA200 and start moving up, guess what HOOY is going to do? Well, HOOY is going to also start moving up. And of course, I would love to see that happening, because I would need HOOY to start moving up so that we can get back up, get closer to my real price per share, so that when I'm earning those distributions, I'm still lowering my real price per share. And if the stock price can move up, then I am getting closer as it's moving up and getting closer to me too. And eventually, I'm hoping that it can flip over, and I would then have a real price per share under the current price of HOOY. But we all know that what's going to drive HOOY to move up or move down, and that is what HOOD is going to do. But I'll tell you, looking at this chart right here, and it's setting right there on that MA200, that looks pretty strong to me. and then you want to add an additional support strength, then we can look and notice that this line that I drew here, this horizontal line, is sitting right at the bottom of that dip that we had on this day, and that's what this line is. So that's an additional support line. So not only do we have that MA200, which is a pretty strong support line, we also have this support line at roughly that 102. So both of those added together, that could be a very strong support line for hood. So I'm hoping to see this one pop right off of that MA200 and start moving up, and that would be ideal. And that's what my hope and plan is on hood, so that HOOY can move on back up. So now, how about Coney? And here we are on Coney. And if we look at that 1 year chart on Coney, well, it does not quite look the same, right? It has been quite choppy. It would move up, it would move down, and it's since moved right back down. We are somewhat just flat on Coney. We had some nice moves up, but it has since moved back down. And this is the adjusted chart, not the actual chart, because we know that Coney did do a reverse split right here. So that's why the chart has shifted. But as you can see overall, when you remove the noise of the distributions and of that reverse split, it is somewhat sideways, even though it is now coming really close to the bottom of around that 3150. But all of this is just noise, right? Because what is actually going to drive Coney is Coinbase, and that's ticker COIN. And here we are on Coinbase. And I've got quite a few lines here. As you can see, there are a lot of resistances and support lines, whether they were previous resistance or supports. I've got those drawn in here, as this was our support line until we did break down below it and we continued to move down. We actually blew right past this 219 support, and we are currently sitting at around 209 on Coinbase. Now, not too excited or happy about that, right? But what is the next possible support line that we could be looking at? And it could be roughly about 193. I mean, ouch, right? But it could be. But there is one thing I do want to point out of where we're currently sitting right now. And if I zoom in right here, this is where we're currently sitting. And there's a little faint red line right here. And I'll draw in another line just to help you see that line. And there you go. I made a red line right here. And that's roughly what the close is, right? And that's what that's showing you. That fainted red dotted line was the current price of Coinbase. So what is the significance that I am seeing on that line? Well, if we zoom back, and I hope you can see that red line right there, and that's that red line we just made over here on the close of today's candle. But as you can see, that was a bit of resistance right here. It was a bit of a support right here, and so forth, right? Right here was a bit of a resistance until it did break on through it. Again, resistance, again, support, and we can just pull on back, and you had some more support right over here in this area, and even a little bit of a resistance at this point. So there are a lot of areas where it did hit this line. So I can see this line here on Coinbase being a pretty significant line. Not saying that that means that it's not going to break it, because it has broke it many times, but there has been a lot of bouncing off of it, whether it's bouncing off of it and moving up, or coming up, hitting it and falling down. But you can see several times where it has hit this same red line. I mean, again, is that a coincidence? I don't think so. There is a reason for that line, and there's a reason why you have so many candles hitting it, and whether it's respecting it and bouncing off of it or being knocked down, it's still a very important line. And that's exactly where we are currently. But like I said, that does not mean that it's not going to break on down and start coming on down and possibly come down to this 193 to test. Only time will tell. But I just wanted to show you that that was a very interesting level that it's currently closed at for today. A very interesting level, in my opinion. So if Coinbase can bounce off of this support line right here, then we know that Coney will also start moving up. So since it was near that support line, I went ahead and did make a purchase on some more shares of Coney. But like I said, that does not mean that it's going to move up. It could continue to move down, but I'm going to continue to fight to get that real price per share in line with where I need it to be. Because as you can see, it's worked for me so far. I now only have Coney, ULTY, and HOOY red. And honestly, if I were to enter in the distributions, my guess is ULTY would be green. Now, I don't know if it would stay green because tomorrow, who knows, it could come down a little bit. But if it does move back up and then I get to enter that distribution, that's going to put a nice little buffer between my real price per share and that market price. So also on this sheet, it does calculate how much you would make if you were to sell out of all your ETFs. And in my case, I have a total of 15 ETFs in this stock tracker sheet. And if I were to sell out of all of them, and also including what I have made on the ones I sold out previously of, I will make a total of $18,175. So currently, I am green in the play. If I can consider all of these ETFs as one big play, then if I sold them all today at the current market price, I would make a little over $18,000. But I'm not going to do that. I am still working to try to get those real price per share down. As the further down I get, then I can get to a point where they become paid off. And of course, if they become paid off, then all the distributions from that point on is free and clear. And that's my goal for these high yield ETFs. Now, it does take time. It is not a quick thing, but it is my plan. So in my opinion, everyone should be calculating what their adjusted price per share is, or that real price per share, which is what I like to call it. Because if you are not, how do you know where you're currently at in your position? How do you know if you're up or down? You need to be calculating that, as that number here takes into account your distributions you have been earning, right? Because that is money you're earning. So why not take that into account and calculate that real price per share so that you know if you had to bail, would you make money or would you lose money? And I think that's very important to know. So if you don't have a way to calculate your real price per share, then come on over, join my Discord where you can get a copy of this spreadsheet where you can enter in all of your high yield ETFs that you are invested into and find out exactly where you are at in each of your high yield ETFs. It's very simple to fill out. As you can see, if I go to one of the simple stock tracker individual sheets here, all you do is enter in your purchases and you enter in your distributions, and everything else is calculated for you. That is it. You enter in just your distributions and your purchases of that stock that you are tracking, and everything else on this sheet is calculated, and it is also all tabulated right into the summary page so that it's an easy one-page sheet to read, look at, and evaluate what you need to do. And of course, to get back to that summary page, it's simple. I've got a little button right here that you click the link and it takes you right back to that summary page. And each of these stock tickers is linked to its individual sheet. So you can always just hover over it, click, and it'll take you right to that individual sheet where you can see all of your purchases and all of your distributions that you've entered over the time. But the one good thing about the summary page is just simply because you can easily see everything you have all on one sheet and find out which ones you need to pay attention to and which ones you need to work on. And for me, like I said, if it's green, I don't have to mess with it. It's good. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to buy more shares because it's green, because I do not want to raise that real price per share. I only want to lower it until it gets paid off, and then if I choose to buy more shares, I can do so, and no matter what happens with the stock, it is still paid off. The only thing that would be at risk at that point would be using those distributions to buy more shares of that particular stock if that's what you chose to do, but you would have none of your money invested into it outside of those distributions. And that would only, of course, be if that's what you choose to do. Or you can take those distributions and you can invest them into anything else that you choose. But if it is red, that means I am down in the play, but those are the ones that I can see right here on the screen, and I can see that I need to work on those. And those for me, of course, are CONY, ULTY, and HOOY. And the rest of them are green. Those are the three that I have to pay attention to and work on. I don't have to keep checking and looking, okay, well, how about SMCY? What do I look like on that one? How about AMDY? Do I need to buy more shares? Should I buy more shares? This takes all the guesswork out of it. If you're not looking to raise that real price per share or your adjusted price per share, then this sheet is a quick view so that you can quickly see which ones you need to focus on. So if you'd like to get a copy, come on over, join the Discord. The link will be in the pinned comments and down in the description below. And that will allow you to enter in your own ETFs so that you can track your very own adjusted price per share for each of the ones you are invested into. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. It would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.